Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining today. And I would like to introduce Ed Becker from Beck IT today. And we are going to talk about with Ed the data information, how to use existing data you have in an organization to make better decisions and run better meetings. Ed, just introduce yourself a little quickly and why you are so passionate about this topic. What do you see is the problem here?
All organizations have a vast collection of data, and that data is unique to them. But it just sits there unless somebody needs to know something, and then they take a stab at interpreting the data to make decisions or to determine whether they're on budget, on the plan is behind, the plan is ahead, whatever. And it doesn't have to be that way. The data is useful. The data is unique. I got to stress that. It's unique to the organization. Nobody else has that data, and nobody else understands that data like you do. So we need to put it to use rather than just letting it sit there in zeros and ones on our hard drives, and begin to use it to accomplish our goals.
We're gonna dive into the some of the solutions, but I really can relate to that, Ed, because it's just dead by apps and dead by data. And what I found was an executive that something is always missing. When I need my cash flow statement, I check the cash flow and oh yeah, but it's missing that bank account. All right, or that's missing the paid receivables or whatever. It's always something missing. So I started sometimes to kind of give up on that and just kind of run the company as gut feelings and things like that. But that's super, super dangerous, and it's really not scalable. So what's your take on that? Because I think that's the stakes are so much higher than neglecting the data what we have and not driving a company with data, just gut feelings and instincts and things like that. What do you feel about that?
As we get more experienced, we certainly do tend to default to our gut or our instincts or our history, what we've learned in our past. But the problem with that is, even if that judgment is 100% accurate all the time, organizations change, people come and people go. And when the organization changes, what you've been doing will also necessarily have to change. And you may not have an experience base in order to make accurate and proper decisions. However, if you are using your data to create information that you need to know to make proper decisions, no matter how much the organization changes or how many people come and go, you will always be in a position to make decisions that have popular buy-in and that people understand.
It's kind of funny because if you think about the whole information technology industry is driven by these visual dashboards and business intelligence and drill into the data and analyze and everything, because that's super it's super visual, right? So when we were purchasing our ERP system, like a complete line of business application system, most of the salespeople were showing nice looking reports. Oh, you are a sales guy. You would like to see this. You would like to see that as a marketing person. So basically the value proposition for information technology is really getting back to how can you make decisions quickly and how you can run a better company, and which gives you this type of sense of scalability, resisting of embrace change, and how you can create a company which is running without you. Our target audience are obviously small and medium businesses, and most of the business owners are fighting to be able to go for a vacation like you and me, and not working all weekends, because we want to scale these companies. So I know, Ed, you have put together a little framework how to deal with that. So if you do you have anything to share as a problem before we jump into the kind of solutions?
I think the key to all of this is that it was told to me by a professor many years ago. at the university, where it was one of those bonehead classes that everybody must take. It was an introduction to statistics.
Oh, yeah.
And the professor said to 1,200 of us, you all need to remember for the rest of your life that figures don't lie, but liars can figure.
Ah, that's
But
good.
I'm not suggesting anyone would purposely mislead using statistics or using the data, but we have to be sure that when we visually portray the data as information, that we're accurately interpreting the data. And so just as you said, you get your cash flow statement, but it doesn't include the tax account. Oh, and they didn't include the investment account. Well, how can it be cash flow if you don't have all of the cash flows represented? So it's very important to, and so the bottom line is it's important to do it right. And there are people who can do that, but then it's also important to start small and build up. I see so many projects that get started with a lot of enthusiasm, and they have a huge plan. The scope is this big, and 6 months later, it just crashes. Nobody's interested because nobody can get anything accomplished. It was such a big task. But if you start with one little tiny thing and then begin to build and add one more thing and one more thing and one more thing, then over the course of time, you have something very useful and very meaningful.
And I was preparing for this session, and I gone through the notes and everything, and I see that you are framing these to like 5 big best practice, and it's kind of funny that if I start like overview what we're going to talk about today, the last one is actually implementation first steps.
Mm-hmm.
That's driven by some type of how you structure your meetings with data to make easier decisions. We're going to talk about how to make sure that the information is all across the organization, and it's not data but information which leading to decisions and insights, and also how to put together like an information system easily to represent those data. And the first thing what we are going to just start now is what is the difference between data, information, insight, decision, because it's a whole lot of confusion about that. So first, let's start with the first best practice, which is how to divide data, information from insights.
So I guess the term death by PowerPoint comes to mind. When we create graphics, we need to be sure that they're telling the story. And the data is just a whole bunch of numbers or measurements or observations or whatever. Maybe if you and I work together, you would say, well, gee, it seems like Ed tends to take longer lunches on Monday, and he doesn't really tend to come back from lunch on Friday. I'm wondering if he's really committed to the operation here.
Okay.
And maybe it's just because you have schedules that take you out of the awareness of what I'm doing on Mondays and Fridays that make you think that, or maybe in fact, that's the fact. So you have to have measurements to know what's really going on. And from those, you can create information. So data is pretty useless and pretty hard to interpret when you're just faced with a mass of numbers.
Yeah.
If I looked at each individual check that we write every month in order to determine whether we're getting the best bang for our payroll buck or not, it would just be impossible to know. But if I begin to do a look at the data across time, and I see that as the payroll increases, I'm also getting an opposite increase in revenues, then yes, indeed, they are paying off. If the inverse is true, payroll goes up and revenues go down, then something's wrong. Does that make sense? Is that what we were talking about?
It totally makes sense because, I think the problem is like we have different type of data sources, right? You capture data with your employees, with outside, like how many clicks you have on your website, and like it's just like a load of really raw data, and you have to somehow, or what I'm wondering is that it's never really because we have sometimes reports I get like weekly. Then we have alerts because something happens, and then we have dashboards and scorecards, like all those representation of the data, which I think most people don't really think through. Like what I want to get out of that, like why I need this scorecard every week. Right. What is the decision I'm looking for to make, or what I'm afraid of that I need this alert to happening. So I think people are like starting, mining the data and try to put something on the data rather than from the end in mind, like what do I want. So how you see that? Because like many projects you told, probably failure because of that mindset, right? Because you never know what you wanted, and it's always, the scope is always changing, right?
Yeah, a lot of people create a dashboard and they think, whew, boy, that project's done, now we've got something to hang our hats on.
Yeah.
The fact is, organizations change, environments change, realities change. I mean, who of us at New Year's this year anticipated a COVID pandemic that would affect everything and everyone in every way that we do it? The other thing is, as you create these dashboards, you need to be sure that you're using them to achieve your goals. And one of the things that just makes me shake and shiver is anytime I see a dashboard or I hear someone saying, well, our average productivity per person is, ooh, so what? If you and I are the business, Danish, and you produce $100,000 and I produce no dollars, our average is $50,000. But you don't need me. I'm not producing anything. So what good does knowing the average do to the company? It doesn't help us achieve our goals. We have to have measurements that actually can help us make decisions that contribute to achieving our goals.
I'm a big advocate of TED Talks with 20 minutes, and they always tell a good story, and many times they use data, for instance. And that's I really, one of those was when somebody was on the stage and showing the different distributions of the COVID pandemic daily infections. And like Europe went up, came down. Sweden go up, come down. Canada go up, come down. New York State go really up, went up, and really down. And then Florida, stay, and bang, go up.
Yep.
Like she wanted to emphasize that, like if you see an average United States of America, like how many infections, it's really, really depends how you see those numbers, because and that shows you the real trends. But if you see averages, if you see different type of graphs, it doesn't pop immediately what is the problem here or how affecting, like, opening, beaches and whatnot. So I mean, information is like what I think what's really important, and how to back that with data, and what you said is like make better decisions and get better confidence. Do you have anything to share about that, or we can move to the next, Ed?
I think you hit on it. Telling a story is the important thing, but you have to be sure that it's telling the right story.
Yeah, it's like, because that's the other thing is like, you can kind of tell a different story with the same data set if you want, just show a little bit different. Like if you put it in a logarithmic scale, we don't have any problem, right? You flatten the curve immediately, no issues.
Exactly.
So I think it's really a responsibility, but I think your take-home value here is that make a conscious differentiation between what is the raw data and what is the information, and what is actually the insight and the story we would like to have from there. All right. So the next
other caveat is different data needs to be depicted differently. So if you have, in some cases, maybe an average is fine. In other cases, maybe orders of magnitude is better.
Yeah.
We're twice as big this year as we were this time last year. That's really positive. Of course, the fact could be that last year we only did $100 in business, and this year we're doing $200. Well, that's really not much to write home about. And then you have ordinal things where it's just, you know, stacking them in order of importance, in order of sequence and things like that. So you can't just look at a PowerPoint slide and expect that it's going to be 100% accurate. You need to question the data and the information from the data.
So that's leading to the next one. So I wanted to make sure we have this kind of theoretical background before we jump into the practical aspects.
Yeah, it gets better from here on out, doesn't it?
yeah, because like many times, like everybody's just jumping into the solutions really without really thinking through some of those major foundations. So the next step here is that business intelligence software type of thing. So like you have the data, you have to somehow process these data, you have to process the data, create dashboards, and be able to flexibly create your own representation of the data and be kind of democratized, meaning everybody in the organization should be able to have the capabilities to access the data and interpret this information. And that's really interesting that, you know, when we see the current business intelligence software, like just like Power BI from Microsoft, which is part of Office 365, just like an example. That feature set was a multi-million dollar investment, even like 10 years ago, for an organization to have that type of capabilities of create different cubes of data, drill down, move up, like changing things around, like interactively go through. So I know it's many times it's kind of a software thing, but it's really like how the human interacts with data. So can you elaborate on what type of software components are helping us to actually be able to get better decisions, make better decisions?
Sure, and you need to choose the right tool. If you wanted a carpenter to come in and fix your deck on your house, and he brought a screwdriver, you probably should find a different carpenter. You need to use the right tool for the right job. So it depends on what you're doing and how much data you have and what the source of the data is and how it's to be depicted. But at the very basic, we can start with Excel. Excel and all of these tools I'm going to talk about are what's called ODBC compliant. They can open up data from many databases. It could be QuickBooks, it could be SQL, it could be the New York Stock Exchange. Doesn't matter. It can suck in data from almost anywhere. But Excel is a good beginning point. However, it's very limited in how it can what it can do with the data in terms of giving you charts and graphs and
it's a great Swiss Army knife, basically.
Exactly. And it's a good place to start because it is open compliant. It can go to other things too. And the next one, which is highly sophisticated, highly capable, and can be used at the very basic level or at a hugely advanced level, is Microsoft Business Intelligence. The good news about that is if you don't need to put your stuff on the web, it's free. You can just download it and you can start using it and keep it updated and get all the enhancements, and it doesn't cost anything, but you have to know how to use it. So you either need someone who's skilled in it or you need to get some training, but Microsoft Business Intelligence is great. Another great one is Tableau, which is as powerful or almost, I think they're equal, Business Intelligence and Tableau. Tableau, however, does have a cost to it. It's a regular subscription, and it does provide the internet base where you can provide sites that can either be public or private and require logins or don't. And then as you get even more sophisticated, perhaps you're doing people analytics, either for marketing or sales or for your employees or whatever. Something like SPSS-X is a great one for human behavior types of analysis, or SAS is really good for economics, those kinds of things. Or if you have the money and you have such a unique requirement that none of those will really do what you need, you can create some custom software, or you can create custom software routines that can interface with
those
Microsoft Business Intelligence or Excel or Tableau. So there are many options. But as we said before, the main thing is to know what you want, why you want it, and what it's going to do for you. Until you know those things, there's really no point in worrying about anything else.
And can you give me some examples of like what type of data, like marketing, sales department, operation, like
Sure.
executives can have, what to look for, things like that? Because I think the expectations are super low. I mean, the bar is so low. Like, yeah, I need my quarterly, accounting numbers or whatever. But if we see that, like what these tools actually can do for like your website data, your internal, how they use like software, login, logout, it's ridiculously insightful.
Yep. So a very basic, simple example would be, let's say you're in business as a company that makes something and you sell that something on the web. And when the person comes to the web and they buy your thing, they give you the credit card, and they give you a shipping address. It's pretty straightforward. We all do it. We've all done it, or most of us have. And so Microsoft Business Intelligence has the ability to take that transaction database, that is the name, the address, the zip code, the product that was purchased, and to put that into a map and to show you where your product is being sold and where it is not being sold. So let's say I'm selling lots and lots of it in New York City, but none in St. Louis. What does that tell me about marketing? I must go to St. Louis and beef up my marketing if I'm going to be a national firm selling my product, because I'm not selling anything in St. Louis. And perhaps I even need to get some airtime or some radio time or some time and some display ads and things like that. So that's a very simple example. And as you monitor that over time, and you can then begin to see your effectiveness of your increased marketing in St. Louis. And you can also be sure that you're guarding your business base in New York City and that's not declining while you're focusing on St. Louis.
Sorry, I had to make a note. Like our subscription software has like hundreds of clients, and I haven't thought about it. And we are worldwide. I know, like we have Australian clients over, but that would be really interesting to actually see what cities we don't have any clients, and we can reach out those clients. Hey guys, nobody's actually promoting that stuff on their local region, so you can be the first or whatever. It's a perfect idea. I haven't. And
here's the good news.
The data is there. I know the data is there.
Well, and the good news, the better news is with that data there in Microsoft Business Intelligence, it's a 10-minute job to know that.
It's ridiculous.
10 minutes.
It's so low-hanging fruit. And I can tell you, if I run this thing through that, I bet we're going to get 3 or 4 clients out of this little campaign. I can send to the people, like, let's reach out those people. And then it's money in the bank. The return on investment is huge, like for this, half an hour job or something. That's really cool. Thanks.
Yep.
Okay. What else you can see, like these typical low-hanging fruits, for instance, like operation-wise, or it's for executives mostly.
Yeah. So all of these can be used on a daily basis to just automate and update daily things like where are you compared to your plan?
Okay.
For the first half, we planned to sell 100,000, and so far we've sold 120,000, or we've only sold 92,000. So where do we stand? We talked about marketing and how that by zip code we can determine where we need to market more and where our marketing is really paying off. Operationally. So here's a really good example that we did with an insurance company that we work with. They were growing rapidly. They were highly specialized in what they insured, and it came down to where they were falling further and further behind. Well, we had monitors on the phone lines and the duration of the calls and the hang-ups and just anything that could go on the phone system. And we knew that the customer service reps were falling further and further behind. And so the decision was made at the executive level from the gut, without data, that we're going to hire 5 more people to keep up with all the calls that we're getting. we also knew from the other side of what we do that their machines were running out of memory all day, every day. So we struck a bargain with them to add a second monitor to one of the customer service reps' machines, computers, and to build up the, increase the memory in them while they went out and continued to try to recruit 5 new people. At the end of the trial period, we found out that the person whose computer we had updated did 3 times as many calls over the period as the nearest other customer service rep. So far, there has been no new hires, and everyone is up to date, and all the customer service business is prompt, and the customers are very happy. And the company's gone into 3 new states. So knowing what's going on in many fronts and being able to balance those out gives you the insights you need to make the right decision, not just hire 5 new people, because, you know, a customer service representative, this was in the mid-Atlantic region of the U.S., would the total cost for a person would be about $100,000 a year when you include training and equipment and updating and software licenses and management and supervision. I mean, it's so there was $500,000 that would have come out of their bottom line if they had hired those people, and there really wasn't the revenue growth to justify that. It was just an effort to serve the clients. So we were able to get to serve the clients and not experience the expense.
Yeah, I think it's really good to pull these real life information, because many times what I found, like with your geographical kind of idea, is that I haven't even thought about I need that type of insight, right? But so it's a kind of iterative approach that you have some data, then you have some examples. For example, we are running a software as a service company, and I was like researching what type of metrics other companies like us using. And they were coming with a customer acquisition cost number. I was like, well, what that means? How many meetings you have, how many, blah, blah, blah. And I was able to calculate our current cost of acquisition. And that was higher than the normal. And I was thinking, yeah, because we didn't actually force ourselves to qualify the people who we have actually a demo. We had a demo with everybody because we were thinking they are qualified if they are interested. No, they were not. So we did this change, and we cut like half of the meeting, better meetings, better feelings for the salespeople, higher win rates, everything. But it was basically me trying to figure out what others are using. So I think it's another really great way to go for that. So now here's the next best practice, Ed, what you were putting is that information should be available for everybody, not just executives. And that's really, really, really a big thing, is like how to make this information and data available for people who probably can't really articulate what they want, and how not, having all these alerts and notifications and all these reports and boarding meetings, and like how we structure these whole sets of data to some type of reports and dashboards and scorecards and alerts and notifications and whatever, to actually channel those information properly and have the proper access control. Because we know that, like, the payroll information I don't really want to share with most of the team, right? It's just so it's really not, many times I see that it's actually a bottleneck we have all these data and information, everything now, but we can't drive that properly to people to actually unleash their potential of making better decisions. So what's your best practice here, Ed? I'm really interested on that part, because that's where the rubber meets the road, I guess.
Yeah, it's situationally dependent, of course, but there will always be some data that shouldn't be publicly disseminated. Things like your customer list. You really don't want that out there for just any competitor to come along and take. But the manager of sales and the manager of marketing needs to have access to that. However, the receptionist doesn't. I'm not even sure that the CFO would need to have access to that. except as it relates to the finances of the organization. So you need to partition it, and you need to look at it in several perspectives. I think the first one is who needs it and how will they use it. So an executive will consume information from the data differently than the receptionist, who just needs to know what the people in the organization do, so that when a call comes in, he can forward that on to the right person and at the right extension. The other thing that you need to think about is this information that would either promote our product or our service or our charity, our organization, if it were public, if we put it on our website. And it's entirely possible to put dashboards or infographics that update in near real time onto your website. And so, let's say I was an organization that served the hungry, and I could put maybe a speedometer on my website that showed how many people were fed this week.
Yeah.
Or today, let's say today, one speedometer for today, next speedometer this week, next one this month, next one this year, next one in the last 2 years, and so on. I mean, as many as you want. And that would encourage people who visit to say, wow, these people are really doing something. Let me donate to them because I have confidence that my donation will be going to a good cause. So it depends what you want to do with it. And it can be everything from public relations, and it could be sales. On the other hand, we're actually trying to work on one now that shows how many tickets we've done, how many are on hold, how many are completed for the last hour, the last day, the last week, the last month. And we don't get a lot of tickets because we try to be proactive, but the impressive part is that so far our measures show that when a service request is launched, it's 90 seconds before it's closed on average. And I know we don't like averages, but on average, that's where we are right now.
That's pretty good. And the question to you is that many companies has their own reports, like reports, monthly reports, quarterly reports, which can have aggregated data, can have like a different type of time. We show that. So do you see the value of having like a single company-wide type of dashboard with like maximum 8 gauges or something, like speedometers, and have like a weekly one, have a monthly one, and a quarterly? How you actually, because if you're not planning what your intent with those scorecards, that will be, hey, I like this widget, put it there, that looks nice, right? And it's not really going to be adopted. How you see these kind of dashboards to be adopted, or what's the best practice for those?
Yeah, in our business, we have to always be be alert to and wary of the bright, shiny objects. Just because it looks sharp doesn't mean it serves a purpose.
It looks
it
nice.
Could actually,
mode. I love that.
It could actually be destructive. So I see that the expense in the executive suite has gone up. That means people are getting raises, and I haven't had one in 2 years. I think I'll quit. You don't want things like that to happen. The best way to use these is multifaceted. It can begin with something like we've talked about, putting public information that promotes the organization on your website with real-time updates. And those updates can be as infrequently as daily, or even less frequently, or as frequently, depending on how you use the tools, as hourly or half hour or 10 minutes. I mean, it depends what you want to do. Secondly, it can become screensavers for your workforce. So the finance staff has one set of measurements in their dashboard, which is right on their screensaver, and the salespeople have a different dashboard that shows on their screens, and so on. And then, one of the best things that we have experienced across multiple industries is where you actually hang large TVs around the office space. And of course, this may be less meaningful because of the COVID pandemic, as we have fewer and fewer people in the offices, but we actually put in large LED displays and push the information out. So in the case of the insurance company, we hung a 62-inch, 60-some inch display there in the customer service center that showed how many calls were on hold, how many calls were in process, how many hangups we had, all that sort of thing. And then we dropped it down to the individuals so that you could see that if I didn't have any calls and you were on a call for 15 minutes already with no end in sight, you could forward your phones over to me and I could start taking your calls.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And last question here is what I found, or I'm looking for insights here, is like most people honestly is driven by their inbox. Driven by they are starting the day with some kind of plan, the good ones. The not that good ones are actually having no plan, just like go with the flow, right? And it's really what's happening is that this information overload from emails and distractions and text message and Slack and Teams and Instant and everything is just like you just start your work and you crash through the day and you are super busy, right? So, and what I found internally that I started accepting that. It's like that's the nature of the business now. So what I started is how to create triggers for people to be able to react on. So we started creating really specific alerts, and these alerts actually have a specific tasks associated. So for instance, we are running a software company, and it's like it's a new client comes in, or somebody shows signs of churn or something. Like we create an alert and with a specific task they have to do and follow up. And you know what I get as a feedback from people, like that is the best invention after like the sliced bread, honestly, because they felt confidence. Okay, so I have these alerts. If I have an alert, I know what to do. If I don't have alerts, nothing to worry about. And it's like it's just cut out the this kind of bugging feeling. Oh, I didn't check the report last week. I'm not sure the clients are healthy, or that type of thing. And I'm not sure what's your take on that, but I haven't really seen, honestly, like a kind of structured way to manage these notification alerts, what you get weekly, what's the kind of, because it's not always like charts and things like that. It's like specific things, like a list of 15 events happened. You need attention, not always that day, but at least review weekly or something like that. I don't know what's your take on that, but I feel somehow that's the next kind of wave here to make sure we are making people proactive by giving them reactive triggers. I'm not sure you...
Right. Yeah, we want to eliminate the tyranny of the urgent is what I call it.
Yes. Ooh.
Somebody texted you, somebody called, somebody emailed. What do you do first? How do you get it done? It doesn't all need to be done immediately. But there are some things that need to be done immediately. So in our case, give you a personal example, we feel that it's important that when a client submits a service request, that they know that we have it and that it's acknowledged. So we have an autoresponder, and we state it's an autoresponder that says we have your service request. Someone will get to it really quickly, and we'll get back to you with if we need additional information. At that point, once that goes out, the timer starts. And 15 minutes later, if no one has opened that service ticket to look at what it is the customer wants, an email goes out to their supervisor that says, hey, Brenda has this, or Ed has this service ticket from this client, and no one's opened the ticket yet. So then we have the option to reassign the ticket to a different person, because we know pretty much what the plan is for the day. And it just happens that Ed is out of the office on a project, and he's never going to respond to that ticket today. So at that point then, somebody gets on it. If for any reason that would fall through the cracks and not happen 30 minutes later, our executive team gets an email that says, this service request is now 30 minutes old and no one has opened it. That means no one has looked at what it is the customer has sent. And nothing goes beyond 30 minutes, of course. In our industry, however, the response norm is 4 hours. So we like, and we've even been the victim of, you have to be careful what you try to do, because we have been the victim of where a client has waited 30 minutes and written to us and said, are you all still in business? It's been 30 minutes. What's going on? We haven't heard from anybody. We think maybe you closed. Should we get somebody else? So, it's a two-edged sword, and you have to be careful how you use it. But in our case, it's a very rare instance that anything goes beyond 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's interesting because what you said was really profound here, is that each and every person should make a decision what is immediate and what is not immediate. And make sure that if you have because you have so much, impulses during the day, good and bad and everything. So you act on those. But many times, I have honestly, I don't know. I already put together 8 Post-it notes, a little red are issues and problems, and these are ideas. And as we go through this interview, I made 8 of those things. And what I did before, I was acting on that immediately. But when I have these little Post-it note, it's there, it's out of my mind, and I can review that. And there is a chance only 2 I'm going to act on, because now it feels urgent. But when it comes, I calm down. Oh yeah, it's a good idea, but just an idea, whatever, it's not a priority. So many times
I like that. I want to use that.
We use that internally as an issue. So we made a decision what we send, what information and alert we send in instant message, what we talk about in weekly meetings, and even what we don't even talk about weekly meetings, just on monthly. So we have these long-term issues, which is not, we don't want to distract ourselves. But we want to make sure on the monthly meeting we consider to act upon. So actually it's really relevant to what is the right information and the source of information, what we've been talking about here as a best practice, to make sure that be able to access those information across the board. So let's move to the next best practice here, which is basically meetings. Everybody hates meetings, right? Boring. Now I can catch up my emails, right? So it's good.
Sit on the back.
And it's really interesting because I give you one thing is when we started our EOS, Entrepreneurial Operation System kind of management system, and it has a really simple dashboard. And it was really interesting that the dashboard wasn't automated. Everybody had to put their numbers there manually. And the first 2 weeks I hated, holy smokes, how to engineer that. But what I realized, that if people put their numbers there manually, they go through the numbers. They understand the numbers. They actually process those numbers and put it manually. So we said, no, we don't do any integration because it's so good to be forced to review those numbers. And that actually led so much better meetings, for instance, because now people came with problems and solutions and things like that. How you feel about incorporating data to meetings, or how to make meetings better in that sense, and why you see everybody hates meetings?
Well, I think the number one reason is that meetings tend to be free floating. We've even gone to where if we have an issue that is urgent and important, but really is not such a big deal that it requires an hour of sit down deep thinking, we'll have standing meetings. And we know that when we have a standing meeting, the limit is 15 minutes. And nobody sits and nobody gets into a rut during the meeting. But any kind of a meeting needs to have a purpose. It needs to have a stated objective or outcome desired. And then you need to know what are the facts so that you can address the issues and make informed decisions. So having your people put in their data is great, But at that point, it's data. Now, all that data needs to be combined so that you can get information on what your developers are doing, what your sales team is doing, what your customer service people are doing, what the company's plan, actual against plan is. Did you plan to have 500 customers by this quarter, and where are you in the quarter, and that sort of thing, so that all that information, all that data that people are putting in. So I know your organization. I know you have developers, you have customer service, you have all kinds of things going on. That can then be synthesized into information that gives a true picture of what's going on in the organization, rather than just how many widgets did we sell. Well, who cares how many widgets you have sold if your benefits cost just went through the roof and you're losing money? You need to know the whole story. What else can we talk about here? Hating the meetings. I think then having the dashboards, and I do not recommend people just run out and start creating dashboards. I recommend it start slow. We'll get to that in a minute. But having the dashboards means when I go into a meeting, we're going to talk about whether I want to pay extra for my benefits package next year or not. Means that I go in knowing how many people have used that portion of the benefits that's going to cost extra, that I know what it's going to cost me. I know what I'm already paying. I know how much it's gone up over the last few years, those kinds of things, so I can make an informed decision, not only for myself, but for my coworkers. So having the dashboard gives me preparation, and then having that available in the meeting, and then to be able to open that dashboard up and show and slice and dice the numbers that contributed to that is very helpful.
And give me some hint here that, imagine that you said that these meetings are free flow, no agenda, or even we have an agenda. We are like, how do you think like numbers actually can make these interesting, or can force decisions? For instance, like if we go through numbers, we have to make decisions. These are okay or not okay, or if it's not okay, what are the issues we have to figure out? So I'm looking for some kind of like little best practices, or how to actually incorporate the data and the dashboards and scorecards or alerts which we are using every day, but make sure that we actually conclude on the meeting. We have action items on the meeting. Meetings are actionable. Like it's not like just this kind of warm and fuzzy feeling after the meeting that that's a great conversation. You guys have a lot to do. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
Because basically everybody goes out. Oh, everybody's going to do something. I don't. Right. So it was good.
Yep. So how many meetings have we sat in where someone in the meeting speaks up and provides a piece of information that nobody else knew that affects the entire outcome of the meeting? So one of the things that I think contributes to engagement in meetings is not having an executive do all the talking and all the presenting, but having the team responsible for that. I'd like to have our accounts payable clerk explain to us what's been going on with the benefits package over the last 2 years.
Yeah, that's so true.
And then just be quiet and let the person
explain these
talk about what, because they're there and they see it from a firsthand perspective. I'd like to discuss whether or not we should begin creating a new product or a new service that the clients would be able to buy from us. Let's bring in the sales team and the marketing team, not the executives, not the managers, because they're a little bit removed. Let's bring in the people who actually face the clients and the prospects on a daily basis. So should we begin producing green widgets as opposed to blue widgets or black widgets, or should we add wheels to our widgets? What are the things that they would see firsthand that would be meaningful? So the real expertise is in the trenches. It's not in the corner offices. These are the people who are responsible to make decisions that affect everybody. But the responsibility does not necessarily is not necessarily accompanied with the wisdom and the knowledge of all the details that will affect that decision. And then one other thing that we do from time to time, and it's just totally random, it's totally unpredictable, and it really depends what's in my pocket, is we'll be going through a meeting, and at some point I'll say, okay, I've got 2 tickets to the basketball game tonight or next week for whoever can tell me what happened in the Blue Cross Blue Shield package last month.
Okay, that's good.
And so, you know, people tend to really, or I've got a $75 gift certificate to Outback for you and your honey, to the first person who can tell me what's being proposed about the new product or the new service.
Yeah, that's good, because that's makes them alert.
And then, you know, and then bringing that into quantification. So I've got 2 tickets to the Outback for anyone who can tell me what's being proposed and can give me an opinion based on the information you've received about what we should do. So when, you know, basically when the meeting gets to where people are starting to glaze over and it's time to move on to a decision, that can be a real impetus to get people moving. And you don't even have to incentivize. I mean, you can just say, all right, at this point, I'm wondering if anybody has any ideas based on the information presented what we should do.
That's pretty good, and this, you know, I'm just thinking through that. We started about information, data, insights. Then we moved to different business intelligence software solutions to actually capture those data and be able to present as an information. Then we went to how to make sure these information available across the organization. Now, how we create dashboards and reports and alerts, and then we went to like how actually use those in meetings. Now, yeah, I'm getting overwhelmed, right? So, like, I know your last one is not how to implement this, which is, I think, super smart. It's not like how to implement this whole thing, like how to set up for success and start the implementation with the potential of success. Because if you start, then you have momentum. That's always an iterative approach. First iteration, second iteration, it's never going to end. So like creating a huge waterfall, you know, chart for what we're going to do is really pointless, because many times we are realizing the opportunities when we are starting using those tools, and that's a little bit altering things. So what do you think is a successful project needs as a starting point, or let's say what to look for not to make a mistake in the beginning, to be able to not screw this whole thing up immediately, right?
Yep. Yeah, you have to start with a small scope. So every organization has income and expense. Any organization could create a dashboard that shows income last month, expense last month. That's really simple. You can put that up there. Every organization has employees, full-time and part-time. So you can put that up there. Number of employees last month, number of employees this month. That's simple enough to put up. Yeah. But then at some point, you know, it you depart, and it becomes very customized to what your organization and your outcomes and your goals are. So in the insurance company, of course, they wanted to know how many customer service calls came in, how many people hung up before they got served, because that's never good, and then how many calls were successfully completed. In the case of the company that is nationwide building a product and wants to know where their sales are actually happening and where they need to market better, that would be a whole different thing. And you know, you might even do A/B split testing where I'm not making any sales in St. Louis and the company is really depending on New York, but hey, guess what? If we have another 9/11, we might be in a really bad situation here. So we need to start getting more sales in more major cities. So let's see what happens when we launch 2 different campaigns in St. Louis and which one works the best, if either work, and begin building dashboards based on that. But your original point is very true. No matter what we do, it will change. Yeah. Because what I count today as cost could be an investment tomorrow, or it could just be gone. So we need to take that out of the factoring as we create that dashboard. So start small, make every enhancement a success, take input from the team on what they'd like to see up on their LED displays or on their computer screensavers. And then you've got to be sure that the things that you need to integrate into that dashboard are integratable. And in Microsoft and Tableau, virtually any kind of data can be brought in, but it has to be numbers. If you're dealing with rank orders, you know, what is the fastest selling product, what is the second fastest selling, then that might be a different type of tool. Or you may have to use the Microsoft BI or the Tableau in a different manner. You might have to create something to sort of fool the software, to have it give you, you know, first place, second place, third place type of listing. And that's entirely doable too. You know, the good news is that these tools have been out there so long now that they're highly mature and they're highly capable. But of course, at the same time, it does require a certain degree of expertise to milk it for everything it's worth, rather than to hope that you're getting what you want to get.
And that's interesting because, like, many of those, I'd say, what I feel about these processes, that honestly, I feel managing these type of projects really cry out for an outside perspective, because people get excited, they get into the weeds, these are business projects, not really IT projects, but technology is really needed. You need to bridge between the technology and the people. And you know, like, you understood so much about this geographical thing, but it's technological, you know, thing. You have to know that these features are ready and you can give this insight. And somehow I feel that typically these type of projects fail because those are seen as an IT project, but these are not IT projects. These are really business projects with technology driver. That's why we are having digital transformation as a narrative, because this really, like, how you get those more digital, but it's not just a business or IT type of thing. And you are an advisor, like a digital advisor. Like, what do you think, like, a digital advisor can actually put into this equation? Like, how working with an advisor, working with a digital transformation officer, VP of digital transformation, whatever, this role is totally missing. And how you feel this role can actually help to make sure these projects are going to be successful. Like, I just go through our notes and holy smokes, like, it's a cultural thing here. How we manage meetings, it's a business stuff. It's like details of how integrated. It's really a complex thing. And the tip of the iceberg, I do have a nice looking report and I can make decision. But what's underneath, it's like, it really has to mature. How you feel, or based on practice, how somebody like you can actually help on these type of situations, like this role, how it can actually help?
Yeah, you know, there's two things that underlie this. The first is that nothing in life is what it appears to be. So whether you have a beautiful report or not, it's not what it appears to be. It is what it is, but you have to look underneath and lift the hood to see what's really going on. And the second is that what we measure is what really gets the attention. I mean, whether I live in Canada or the US or Mexico or London or Rome or wherever I live, people are people. And if they know that there are measurements that need to be attended to, then that is what will get the attention. Now, in terms of making this a project that has some outside guidance, that's really important, because we've only talked today about the obvious stuff. There is what I call dark data, stuff that you have in your organization, but you have no idea it's there. And even if you have an idea that it's there, you're not using it because you don't know what it could do for you. And one of the brave new worlds that we're seeing right now is called people analytics. Well, any organization that has people in it needs to know what the people are doing and how they can be more effective at the outcomes that the organization is there to accomplish. And, just one thing I can tell you from a study that we've done is that most people use at the most 5% of what's in Microsoft Office. And generally, we're talking only 1 to 2%. So just if we could get everybody up to 5%, the amount of time that you and I spend going, hey, do you know how to put this formula in Excel? Do you know how I can get this into a chart?
Yeah.
That type of thing would go away, and we'd have more time to do more important things.
Yeah, I think most people just don't really want to see that, because it's gonna open up a can of worms. Like, holy smokes! Because you feel that,
Sure.
that there are different capabilities, and this whole digital transformation is like something which is really favored to the millennials, for instance.
Yeah.
They don't have the gray hair expertise. And then we have these senior, well-wisdom people kind of hesitant to use technology. Now, how the culture can actually put these two advantage together and have a synergy. Like, these type of things are really root back to a culture of an organization. And definitely, I think a leadership on digital transformation actually can help on that. And just low-hanging fruits, and not investing anywhere.
Right.
Just use what you have and like unlock these potentials. It's just so enormous amount of value buried somewhere. We just need to unlock. And like add, like, see, COVID, everybody was able to go and do remote work, right? That was surprising, because the technology was ready. It was ready and well battle tested for years to switch the plug in that sense. And we as a society adopted quickly because we had to.
Yep.
And that's the thing with like data as well. Like the technologies are ready. The culture, the interactions has to be somehow adjusted for that. So if like, we are just at about the end of this interview, and I really want to go back to the beginning with you a little bit. And can you just like, again, kind of summarize what is the problem here? Like, why do you feel so passionate about like data, information, business intelligence, meetings, culture? Why do you think it's important for an organizations or the small businesses?
Small businesses are described as small for a reason. And so as a small business, we need every advantage that we can, or a small organization. I mean, we do a lot of work with nonprofits as well. And so any kind of small organization needs all of the advantage that it can get. Technology is a great equalizer. And every organization has data that has data that only they have. And it can be very useful to accomplishing their goals. Now, that doesn't mean that we're all, as small organizations, going to become the size of Google if we just use our data. But it does mean that we can make smart decisions. We can leverage the smartness of our team, our employees, our staff, our advisors, our consultants, our outsourced like CPAs and things like that, to ask smart questions. Hey, Mr. CPA, I see that we're not getting any sales I see that our cost of credit card processing has gone up, but I don't know exactly how much it's gone up in each credit card area. Can you tell me what my costs are for American Express versus MasterCard versus Visa versus Discovery? That might tell me that I no longer want to accept one or the other of the cards. Or I may want to start applying a surcharge to my product sales online when I use the credit card. So, there are a lot of things about our organization that are affected by stuff that's in the data, if we could only draw that out and make it information that we can act on. It's there. And if we really want to achieve the goals of this organization, we can use that to our advantage, and we can make technology, because, you know, when you buy a computer, it just sits there. It doesn't care if it's processing anything or not. It doesn't ask for overtime. It doesn't get unemployment benefits. It doesn't need health insurance. It doesn't need continual training or updating. It just needs electricity. And so it will do what you ask it to do. And the more that we can get out of these computers, and the more we can leverage the data, creating information on which we can act, the better off our organization will be. And it just is a matter of desire. How much do you want to do? And then how are you using that? And don't forget the dark data. You know, everybody knows about income and expense and time, you know, how long it takes for accounts to be settled, and how long the payments are taken, and the cost of sales, and all those things that we've talked about. But what's there that we don't know, and how can we use that? What's our turnover rate? How long does an average associate stay with the organization? What's the reason that they leave? Do we see a lot of them leaving because they can get more money? Others because they can get better work environment? Others because they can work from home instead of coming into the office and doing that commute every day? I mean, what is the reason for all of these things? So when we have the information, we can just become better organizations, which makes us better people and has a better impact on the societies that we live in.
It's pretty good, and So Digital Machinery Group has created a scoring and measurement which actually can measure how your organization can leverage the data, plan the data, information, access control, things like that. So I'm really encouraging everybody. It's a free benchmark. We are collecting a lot of data points to make sure we are understanding for small businesses what's the strengths, weaknesses, where they need help. And our advisors like Ed is volunteering to do the assessments and analyze those and help you to make information and decision to you based on these questionnaires and benchmarks. So don't hesitate to ask one of our advisors, or just submit the mini assessment to see if it's like good for you or not. We really encourage everybody to do that, because it's digital transformation is happening at everybody. Nobody's like using fax machines anymore. So that's somehow happening. The question is whether we are driving that or we are driven by that. And I want to make sure like small and medium businesses are driving this, not reacting on, oh, that's a new technology, let's adopt this and that. No, what is your strategy? What you want to accomplish? How technology can help? How data can help? How application can help? And how your organization culture can change to adopt these technologies and information. So, Ed, thank you very much. That was awesome insights. And I know you are working on a complete step-by-step presentation as well. I can't wait to grab that. It's really insightful. I'm a little bit overwhelmed with like my and notes here, but by the end it really made sense to me that these are really awesome concepts, and just start with the right foot. Don't try to boil the ocean. Get the core information, get the data, and that's going to give you more and more and more insights, and you can layer out more and more and more insightful items, but just like focus on the core. So again, Ed, thank you very much. That was awesome, and I learned a lot, and can't wait for your structured presentation as well.
Yep.
Thank you, Dan.
Enjoyed talking with you. Thanks, Danish.